Dead weight. That's what my son muttered as he carved the turkey, right in front of his wife, my daughter, and even the grandkids. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Did I hear that right? Yes, my daughter chimed in, swirling her wine. Mom, you just sit there now. You don't really do anything. It's like, she laughed. It's like keeping an old lamp no one uses, just taking up space. The words hit harder than any winter chill outside. My own children at my Christmas table treating me like clutter. I wanted to slam my hand down, to shout, to make them see the cruelty dripping from their mouths, but instead I swallowed it, because I knew something they didn't. I smiled. Another helping of potatoes, anyone? Their smirks widened. They thought they'd won, that I'd sit there shrunken and silent while they stripped me of dignity. But I was already planning, because insults are easy to fling. Payback takes precision. But let's go back just an hour earlier. The house had smelled of cinnamon and roast ham. Every ornament on the tree glowed softly, each one a memory. My late husband and I had bought most of them together, back when the kids were little and still thought Christmas meant magic. I'd hoped for peace. Just one warm holiday where we could pretend things were normal again. But the moment they arrived, peace evaporated. My daughter didn't even hug me. She brushed past with her phone in hand, already complaining about the Wi-Fi signal. My son dumped his coat on the sofa without asking. His wife wrinkled her nose at my old-fashioned decorations, whispering something snide about Grandma Chic. It wasn't a visit, it was an invasion. By the time we sat down for dinner, I could already feel the storm brewing, and then the words fell, dead weight, shattering whatever illusion of family we had left. I looked around the table, my son smirking into his glass, my daughter nodding along, their spouses pretending not to hear, but loving every second. Even my grandchildren were watching, confused, waiting to see if Grandma would cry. I didn't. Instead, I smiled again, the same way I smiled at their father when he used to bluff at cards. Calm, patient, deadly. They thought they'd embarrassed me. What they didn't know was that this night, this Christmas, would be the last time they ever underestimated me, because tucked away in my desk drawer was a little folder, a folder with a will, notarized and signed, that would flip their smug little world upside down, and by the time the snow melted outside, they would learn what dead weight could do when it decided to move. After dinner, I excused myself to load the dishwasher. My hands moved mechanically, scraping plates, rinsing glasses, while my mind raced with hurt and fury. That's when I heard them in the living room, voices low, conspiratorial. I crept closer to the doorway. "Did you see her face?" David whispered, barely containing his laughter. Anna stifled a giggle. "When I called her furniture? Priceless!" "She looked so pathetic, like a kicked dog." I pressed myself against the wall, my heart hammering. They were laughing, actually laughing about humiliating me. "I mean, it's not like we're wrong," Anna continued. "What does she actually contribute anymore? She just rattles around this house, cooking meals nobody asks for." "Remember when she used to be useful?" David's voice carried that cruel edge I'd been hearing more often lately. "Now she's just this sad old woman clinging to the past." My phone was in my pocket. Without thinking, I pulled it out and started the voice recording app. My fingers trembled as I held it toward their voices. "We need to start planning," Anna said, her tone turning practical. "This house is wasted on one person, and she's clearly not managing well. You think we should look into facilities? I've already researched a few. There's a nice place about 20 minutes away. Clean, affordable. She'd probably be happier with people her own age." David's laugh was cold. "And we could finally sell this place, split the profits. God knows we could both use the money." The phone nearly slipped from my shaking hands. They weren't just mocking me. They were plotting my exile. "The kids need college funds," Anna added, "and honestly, keeping her here is just enabling her delusions about still being independent. Plus, think about the liability. What if she falls? What if something happens and we get blamed for not stepping in?" They had it all figured out. My imprisonment disguised as concern, my displacement dressed up as love. I backed away from the doorway, the recording still running. In the kitchen, I stopped the app and stared at the phone's screen. 3 minutes and 47 seconds of pure betrayal, captured in crystal clear audio. They thought they'd broken me with their insults at dinner. They had no idea I now held the ammunition to destroy them. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and returned to loading the dishwasher, humming softly. When they wandered back into the kitchen for more wine, I smiled brightly. "Having a nice chat?" I asked. "Just catching up," David said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Family time is so precious," I agreed, my voice sweet as poisoned honey. But I'd already decided something. This recording was just the beginning. By the time Christmas morning arrived, my ungrateful children would learn exactly what their mother was capable of. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and my phone, listening to the recording again. Each cruel word hit like a fresh slap, but this time, something else stirred alongside the hurt. Power. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Mrs. Henderson from next door stood on my porch, holding a plate of cookies and wearing a concerned expression. "Margaret, honey, I hope you don't mind me dropping by. I heard raised voices last night and wanted to make sure everything was all right." I invited her in, and within minutes found myself pouring out the whole story. The insults, the plotting, the casual cruelty of my own children. "That's despicable," Mrs. Henderson said, her usually gentle voice sharp with anger. "After everything you've done for them." "I don't know what to do, Ruth. They're my children." She studied my face carefully. "What would Gerald have wanted you to do?" The mention of my late husband's name brought tears to my eyes. Gerald, who'd worked double shifts to put those ungrateful kids through college, who'd believed family meant everything. "He'd have been heartbroken," I whispered. "Yes, but what would he have told you to do about it?" I knew the answer immediately. Gerald had always said that respect was earned, not given, that actions had consequences even within families. Mrs. Henderson leaned forward. "Margaret, I have a confession. When my own son tried to pressure me into selling my house 5 years ago, I made some changes to my estate planning. It was the best decision I ever made." "What kind of changes?" Her smile was sharp as winter wind. "I left everything to my nephew instead. The one who actually calls me, who visits without being asked, who treats me like family instead of an inconvenience." The idea hit me like lightning. I'm saying you should think very carefully about who deserves your legacy, and it doesn't have to be the people who share your DNA. After she left, I sat alone with that thought spinning in my mind. Mrs. Henderson was right. Just because David and Anna were my children didn't mean they were entitled to everything I'd worked for. I pulled out my laptop and began researching. Charities that helped elderly people. Organizations that supported seniors abandoned by their families. Causes that would honor Gerald's memory better than handing money to children who saw me as a burden. By evening, I'd made my decision. The next morning, I drove to my lawyer's office. Janet Mullins had handled our family's legal affairs for 15 years. She'd drawn up Gerald's will, helped me through the probate process, and knew exactly how much my children stood to inherit. "I want to make some changes to my will," I told her. Her eyebrows rose. "Significant changes? Complete changes. I want to leave everything to charity." Janet's pen paused over her notepad. "Everything? Margaret, that's a major decision. Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." I told her about Christmas dinner, played her the recording of David and Anna's conversation. By the time I finished, Janet's professional composure had cracked. "Those ungrateful little—" She caught herself. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional." "No, it was honest. And I need honesty right now." We spent 2 hours drafting the new will. Every asset, every investment, every precious thing Gerald and I had built together. It would all go to the Forgotten Elders Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping seniors betrayed by their families. "When do you want this to take effect?" Janet asked. I thought about David and Anna, probably already measuring rooms in my house, planning their windfall. "Immediately. And Janet, I want copies ready by Christmas Eve." She smiled grimly. "Planning to give them an early Christmas present?" "Something like that. One they'll never forget. Because if my children wanted to treat me like I was already gone, then I'd give them exactly what they were wishing for." Christmas Eve arrived gray and cold, with snow beginning to dust the windows. I'd spent the morning wrapping presents for the grandchildren, the only ones in my family who still looked at me with genuine love. The adults would get something different this year. At exactly noon, Janet Mullins rang my doorbell. She handed me a manila envelope, thick with official documents. "Are you sure about this timing?" she asked. "Christmas Eve seems perfect," I finished. Trust me. That evening, David and Anna arrived with their families. The same routine as always. Distracted greetings, immediate complaints about parking. Children shuttled off to the living room while the adults gathered in the kitchen. I watched them move through my house like they owned it. Anna was already eyeing the antique cabinet Gerald's mother had left us. David was calculating square footage with his eyes. During dinner, they made an effort to be more pleasant. No outright insults this time. Just the usual patronizing tone they used when they wanted something. "Mom, we've been thinking," Anna said as I served dessert. "After the holidays, maybe we should all sit down and have a family meeting. About the future." "What about the future?" I asked innocently. David jumped in. "Just practical stuff. Making sure you're okay here by yourself. Maybe exploring some options that might be easier for you." There it was. The sales pitch for my exile, wrapped in fake concern. "That's very thoughtful," I said. "Actually, I have something for all of you tonight. A little early Christmas present." I retrieved the manila envelope from the kitchen counter and placed it on the dining table. "This is for the whole family to share." Anna frowned. "What is it?" "Open it and see." David reached for the envelope first, tearing it open with the eager greed I'd come to expect from him. He pulled out the documents, his eyes scanning the first page. His face went white. "What does it say?" Anna demanded, grabbing the papers from his hands. I watched her read, saw the exact moment comprehension dawned. Her mouth fell open. This says you're leaving everything to charity. Everything." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kelsey leaned over David's shoulder. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No joke," I said calmly. "I had my will changed 3 days ago. Every asset, every investment, this house, all of it goes to the Forgotten Elders Foundation." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. Then the explosion began. "You can't do this," David shot to his feet, the papers scattering. "This is insane. Actually, I can. It's my money, my house, my choice." Anna was reading frantically through the pages. "Mom, we were joking the other night. You can't destroy our futures over some stupid family banter." I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. "Would you like to hear exactly what you said? Because I have every word." Their faces drained of color. "You recorded us?" Kelsey's voice cracked. "In my own house, talking about shipping me off to a facility so you could sell my home. Yes, I recorded every vicious word." I pressed play. Their voices filled the dining room, cold and calculating as they planned my disposal. When it finished, little Tommy was crying in the living room, frightened by the raised voices. "Now you know exactly why you're getting nothing," I said quietly. "Because children who see their mother as furniture don't deserve to inherit the life she built." David lunged for the phone, but I'd already stepped back. "Too late," I said. "The will is filed, the charity has been notified, and after tonight, you'll understand exactly what it feels like to be discarded." Anna made one last desperate attempt. "Mom, please, we're sorry, we didn't mean—" "Yes, you did, and now you'll live with the consequences." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Merry Christmas," I said, "and goodbye." The chaos that followed, the screaming, the begging, the threats, only confirmed that I'd made the right choice. Because children who could turn on their mother so completely were strangers wearing familiar faces. And strangers don't get to inherit the life you built with love. What happened next was spectacular in its ugliness. Within seconds of my final ultimatum, my children turned on each other like rabid animals. "This is your fault!" Anna screamed at David, jabbing her finger into his chest. "You and your big mouth about assisted living." "My fault?" David's voice cracked with rage. "You called her furniture! You started this whole thing!" The envelope of legal documents lay scattered on my dining room floor like confetti, each page representing a fortune they'd never see. Kelsey tried to grab my phone. "Delete that recording. You can't use private conversations against us." I held it out of reach. "Watch me." That's when David completely lost control. He lunged for the scattered will pages, trying to gather them up, as if destroying the copies would somehow undo what I'd done. "These papers are meaningless," he shouted, crumpling pages in his fists. "We'll contest this. No court would—" "David, stop!" Anna shrieked, but it was too late. In his frenzy, he ripped one of the pages clean in half. The sound, that crisp tearing of legal paper, silenced the room. We all stared at the torn document in his hands. The symbolism was perfect. My son, literally destroying his own future in a fit of rage. "Congratulations," I said quietly. "You just proved my point better than any recording ever could." Mark, who'd been trying to calm the chaos, finally spoke up. "David, you need to stop. The kids are terrified." Indeed, both grandchildren were sobbing in the living room, clinging to each other on the couch. The sight of their tears was the only thing that still hurt me. But then Anna played her final, desperate card. "What about Sarah and Tommy?" she demanded. "You're punishing them too. They love you. And I love them. That's why I'm teaching them a lesson their parents never learned." "What lesson?" I looked at my daughter. This woman I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through fevers, cheered at school plays, and saw nothing of the child she'd once been. That actions have consequences. That love isn't something you can take for granted. That when you throw people away, sometimes they stay thrown. Kelsey was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "Ma, please. David didn't mean to tear those papers. He's just upset. He's upset about losing money he never earned. Money I worked 3 jobs to save while he was in college, complaining that I was too tired to attend his football games." The accusation hit home. David's face crumpled. "Mom, I was 17, and now you're 42, still thinking the world owes you something, still seeing me as an obstacle to your happiness." Anna made one last desperate attempt. "Fine. We said horrible things. We're sorry. We'll do better. We'll visit more, call more often. You'll perform the role of loving children until I die, then cash in your inheritance. Is that what you're offering?" She had no answer for that. I walked to my front closet and pulled out their coats. "Your presents are under the tree if you want them, but I think it's time you left." "Mom," David started. "Mrs. Walsh now. You lost the right to call me Mom when you decided I was dead weight." As they gathered their things, whispering frantically to each other, I felt something I hadn't expected: relief. For years, I'd been walking on eggshells around their moods, their schedules, their convenience, hoping for scraps of attention, accepting crumbs of affection. Now, watching them leave, I realized I was finally free. Free from their judgment, free from their expectations, free from the exhausting work of loving people who saw that love as a burden. The door closed behind them with a final, satisfying click, and for the first time in years, my house felt like home again. The silence that followed their departure was profound and clean, like the air after a thunderstorm. I walked through my house, turning off lights, collecting the abandoned wine glasses and crumpled napkins they'd left behind. The torn will pages lay scattered on my dining room floor like the remnants of a relationship that had been breaking for years. I gathered them carefully, smoothing out the wrinkles. These weren't the only copies, of course. Janet had made sure of that. But holding them felt symbolic somehow. Evidence of how completely my children had destroyed themselves. On the mantelpiece, Gerald's photo smiled down at me with that gentle expression I'd fallen in love with 48 years ago. "I know what you're thinking," I said to his image, "that I was too harsh, that families should forgive." But Gerald had also been the one to teach me that respect was earned, not given, that love without boundaries wasn't love at all, it was enabling. The phone rang at midnight, Anna's number. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again at 12:30. David this time. I turned off the ringer entirely. Over the next 2 days they called constantly, left voicemails that progressed from rage to bargaining to what might have been genuine remorse. The messages piled up like debris after a hurricane. "Mom, please, we can work this out. You're being manipulative and cruel. The kids are asking for you. You're hurting them too. I found a lawyer. We're going to fight this. Please just call me back. Please." I deleted them all without responding. On December 28th, Mrs. Henderson knocked on my door with a plate of leftover Christmas cookies and a worried expression. "I heard the shouting the other night," she said gently. "Are you all right?" I invited her in for tea and told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Do you regret it?" she asked finally. I considered the question seriously. Did I regret cutting my children out of my will? Did I regret exposing their cruelty? Did I regret standing up for myself after years of being taken for granted? "No," I said. "I regret that it came to this. I regret that they became people who could treat their mother like garbage, but I don't regret protecting myself from them." Ruth nodded. "When I cut my son out of my will, he accused me of being vindictive, said I was punishing him for being honest about my limitations. How did you respond?" "I told him that honesty without kindness is just cruelty with better PR." That phrase stayed with me as the days passed. Honesty without kindness. That's exactly what David and Anna had offered me. Brutal truths delivered without love, assessments of my worth that cut deep because they came from people who were supposed to cherish me. On New Year's Eve, I made myself a special dinner. Nothing elaborate, just my favorite foods, prepared the way I liked them, eaten at my own pace without worrying about anyone else's preferences. As midnight approached, I raised a glass of wine to the year ahead. A year without walking on eggshells around my children's moods. A year without measuring my worth by how much they needed me. A year without pretending that scraps of attention were enough. A year of discovering who I was when I wasn't trying to be the mother they wanted me to be. At 12:01, fireworks lit up the sky outside my window, and my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Walsh, this is Jennifer from the Forgotten Elders Foundation. We received notification of your generous bequest. Could we arrange a meeting to discuss how your gift will help other families? Thank you for thinking of forgotten seniors like us." I smiled and typed back, "I'd be honored to help. Some of us know exactly what it feels like to be forgotten." My children had taught me a valuable lesson, though not the one they'd intended. They'd shown me that love without respect is worthless, that family ties mean nothing without kindness, that sometimes the cruelest thing you can do to someone is exactly what they deserve, and sometimes the only way to teach people your worth is to take it away from them completely. Outside, the fireworks continued to bloom and fade, each one beautiful and brief, like family dinners that end in silence, like children who forget where they came from, like second chances that some people don't deserve, but also like the relief that comes when you finally stop carrying dead weight and discover that you're strong enough to stand on your own. What would you have done if your own children called you dead weight on Christmas? Would you forgive, or would you teach them a lesson like Margaret? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. For more stories of betrayal and revenge, don't forget to subscribe. I post new tales every single day.